Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another weekly installment of the USA Hockey Officiating Program Zoomcast program. This is episode 15, where we're going to cover the topic of disabled hockey. For those of you who don't know me, I am BJ Ringrose, the manager of the Officiating Education Program at USA Hockey, and joining me is a great group of panelists, all well experienced and well versed in the nuances of the disabled game within USA Hockey, which has seen a lot of growth over the past few years, and obviously with growth amongst players and coaches and fans. Obviously, we need officials to cover those games, and that's what we're going to discuss over the next hour here or so. So getting on to our panel, start off, one of our panelists, Beth Mahr. Beth Mara is on our USA Hockey staff here in Colorado Springs, where she serves as the manager of disabled hockey. She's been in that position for about a year and a half. Comes to us from our good friends over at US Lacrosse out there in the Baltimore area, where she worked in kind of the HR as well as diversity inclusion, kind of multiple roles within that office. But within those positions, she basically started awareness and bringing in a lot of the disabled disciplines within the US Lacrosse program. So welcome, Beth. Joining us as well is Evonne Fix. Evonne is from the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, linesman within the IIHF and the NCAA programs with her on-ice career, most notably working the first ever Women's Winter Olympics in 1998, and during that tournament she actually worked the bronze medal game as a linesman. And the reason she was working the bronze medal game and not the gold medal game is because Team USA was out there in the gold medal game busy winning the darn thing. So the fact that she worked the bronze medal is actually that's about as far as she could take it. So a very successful run there. And at the same time, she's also in the college levels. She's worked 2 women's Frozen Fours, so 2 championships under her belt back in 2001 and 2003. So very well experienced within the women's game. But as of late, she's moved over into the disabled game and the sled hockey game, and she's going to talk about the nuances of working sled hockey and other disabled hockey under USA Hockey. And then lastly, but not leastly, is Brad Roethlisberger. Brad Roethlisberger comes from the Green Bay, Wisconsin area. He serves as a volunteer as the referee-in-chief of the disabled section of USA Hockey. So his focus is on the disabled sport and all the different disciplines within disabled hockey. 30-plus year official within USA Hockey, but also within the officiating world. He's also outside the officiating world. He has built the disabled game up within both his area and across the country, building up programs and helping out our disabled section in every way possible. So that's our panel. Really look forward to their various presentations and a lot of good collaboration and discussion. Just to remind you, as participants, if you want to ask a question, please use the Q&A button within your manual in the Zoom program, the Zoom platform here, to submit a question, and we will do our best to answer all questions that get submitted to us. At the same time, you can send us chat messages as well if you want to send a chat message to the panel as well, and we'll get back to you hopefully. So with that, we will move into the presentations that we have lined up. And as we always do, we'll start off just before we get into the first presentation. We'll start with a poll. And this is just a real quick 2-question poll. Question number 1, how many different types of disabled hockey disciplines are offered by USA Hockey? And the answers options are 3, 5, 6, or 8. A second question is, what decade was sled hockey invented? The 1970s, the 1990s, or the 1980s? So a quick 2-question poll. We'll sit tight here for about 30 seconds or so while you get your answers in. About 3/4 of the way there. We'll wait for about another 5 seconds. Okay, pencils down, sharing those answers. First question, how many different types of disciplines, does disabled hockey have within USA Hockey? Most of you answered either 3 or 5. You were close. A couple of you, 2 of you answered with 6, which I believe is the correct answer. If I'm wrong, Beth will quickly correct me. The second question, what decade was sled hockey invented? Most people said the 1980s. That's about 2/3 of you. with a fringe minority out there saying back as far back as the 1970s. And I believe the correct answer was the 1980s. And again, Beth can hopefully correct me if I'm wrong there. But with that, we will move on to our first section of this program with Beth Mahr, basically sharing the overall program itself, the discipline, disabled section of USA Hockey and the different disciplines. So take it away, Beth.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. So I will start and just give kind of a high-level overview. We, as was mentioned, we do have 6 disciplines of disabled hockey, and those include blind hockey, special, sled, deaf, hard of hearing hockey, standing amputee hockey, and warrior hockey. And all 6 of those have varied greatly in their growth process and how they started and when they were officially recognized and came under USA Hockey. So there's a little bit of variety among each of those, and we can get into those a little bit further. And so it's really cool that USA Hockey recognizes so many different types of adaptive hockey and provides participation opportunities for a wide variety of people. So just to go over kind of a little bit of what that looks like in the country, to provide kind of a 5-year comparison on numbers. In 2014 and 2015, which was pretty early in the development of our different disciplines, we were looking at 2,346 players and only 647 coaches. And the large majority of those numbers belong to sled hockey, as that was the first and the strongest of all of our disciplines. And then looking 5 years later at last season, the 2019-20 season, we doubled in both players and coaches. We had 4,271 players claimed with Disabled Hockey Association and 1,211 coaches. So you can see just in 5 years, the amount of growth. And it's been really cool. Sled hockey, like I mentioned, is our most well-known, considering it's in the Paralympics. And it was one of our earliest disciplines, and it has shown consistent sustainability and growth within USA Hockey, growing about 400 participants in those 5 years. Whereas, excuse me, we have blind hockey, warrior hockey, and special hockey that have come out of nowhere and just caught on like wildfire throughout the country in the last several years. Special hockey spiked in 2017 to 18 season, and is showing very popular and consistent numbers these days. Warrior hockey has more than doubled in only the last 3 years, with over 30 programs now across the country. And in 2017, that was really the start of blind hockey here in the US. Canada started it, and it worked its way down. And that has shown tremendous growth with some consistent, well-populated programs, but also every year we've got new programs starting with even just a few numbers, but growing as the interest gains. So it's been really cool to see how each of those disciplines have taken off. Deaf, hard of hearing, and standing amputee are our 2 most independent disciplines that don't have as much awareness around them, because at the grassroots level, a lot of those athletes participate on able-bodied hockey teams. So we don't necessarily have the grassroots programs for those 2 disciplines like we do for our other 4. But both of those disciplines compete at the national and international level and represent US in different countries and different competitions.
Great, Beth, thanks. Just to clarify a little bit, you mentioned warrior hockey being a discipline. Can you define and elaborate a little further on, for those that might not be aware of what warrior hockey specifically is?
Absolutely. So warrior hockey is for disabled veterans, and where we have a lot of disabled veterans in multiple disciplines that USA Hockey recognizes, warrior hockey is more of the invisible disabilities with our veterans, like hearing loss, TBIs, PTSD. A lot of these veterans have been medically discharged or received a Purple Heart, or have different qualifications that are met with the VA in order to qualify to participate in warrior hockey. To the untrained eye, it looks like adult hockey, but these guys and girls have all represented their country for different branches of the military. And so this provides a really special brotherhood for our veterans to be a part of post-service as they live their lives and fight different struggles that they have. It's proven to be very rewarding and beneficial for all of our Warrior Hockey participants.
Now, is there any kind of relationship between that and the Warrior Games?
Not currently. We don't have a relationship with the Warrior Games for hockey, but that is just one of the many opportunities that Warrior Hockey has ahead of it to continue to grow.
Okay, hopefully we'll get there. How about if we like hotspots, like kind of areas, where do you see a lot of the growth happening within all the disciplines?
Absolutely. It's hard to answer that question simply because each discipline has had its own trajectory as far as growth goes. But we've definitely seen there's a new blind hockey program starting in Texas. So in the Texas area, we've seen actually a start of several different disciplines in recent years. California continues to grow and catch on. And then the East Coast is just very consistent with new programs popping up everywhere along the coast. And so the Midwest is holding pretty strong, with Illinois being a pretty good hotspot for many of our disciplines, especially Deaf Hard of Hearing runs their camp out of Illinois every year. So that's a good and our focal point for that discipline as well. But it would be really cool to see some more consistent growth kind of in that Rocky Mountain area. The pockets in between the West Coast, the West, and the East Coast are definitely areas for growth for us.
I'm sure it'll get there without a doubt eventually. But consistency is definitely a good thing. It's got to be reassuring and comforting for the disabled section to see that. And hopefully it's sustainable as well. It's not necessarily these huge peaks where you kind of wonder, well, how long is this going to last for? It's more of kind of that slower incline of sustainable growth and manageable growth. Because certainly
absolutely
more the growth
and that's something that we've seen. Like I said, with sled hockey, it's our oldest, so it's the one that we have the most evidence to factor back to. But officials, the importance of this Zoomcast is the fact that officials play a key part in that sustainability. In order for these disciplines to compete as they want to, we need people that know the rules of the game and can officiate so that there's more opportunity for competition and not just scrimmaging and playing around with the people in their area.
No doubt. You mentioned a camp a couple minutes ago. I assume there's development opportunities and stuff like that within, at least within the players' world of sled hockey and the different disabled disciplines. What type of development events go on?
Absolutely. There are several events run across the country locally by local organizations that are everywhere from beginner stages to really developing more elite skills. And then from USA Hockey side, we have national events that also range from the beginners to national championships in sled hockey. And those include we have 4 disciplines that have their own events. Blind Classic was supposed to be the first ever this year, but thanks to COVID, that will premiere in 2021. And the Sled Classic, the Special Classic, and the Warrior Classic all take place every year. That's an opportunity for that specific discipline to come and play against teams from all over the country, as well as our Disabled Hockey Festival that happens every spring, kind of a final event of the season that brings all 6 disciplines together to celebrate disabled hockey as a whole. It includes the sled national championship, but also provides some really cool interaction between the different disciplines and develops every level of athlete in a really fun way.
Fantastic. With those types of events, particularly with like nationals and stuff like that, is there consistency with that schedule? In other words, it's typically the same time of year. Is it in the same location? What's that kind of the date and location sort of look like?
Yeah, so the individual discipline classics traditionally happen in the fall each year, and our festival traditionally happens end of March, beginning of April. It alters based on where Easter falls each year. but otherwise it's pretty consistent. The locations do vary. So we host these events in a different location every year, and there's a real benefit to that, to bring these disciplines to different locations, and because it can really help the local programs grow and gain interest and just raise awareness in that community. So it is not in the same place every year.
That's great. It even expands those opportunities out to those officials who they may not be able to travel to a normal able-bodied showcase event or an able-bodied national tournament. But if disabled nationals were to land in their back door, they can certainly work that event and work a USA Hockey National Championship, which is a big deal regardless of whether it's able-bodied or disabled. So that's
absolutely.
No, I definitely appreciate it, Beth. Thanks for kind of giving us the overview, the broad picture of the disabled section and disabled hockey within USA Hockey. From there, we're going to move on to the second part of our overall episode, and we're going to launch another poll. And poll number 2, another two-question poll. Question number 1, what determines whether an attacking player is offside at the blue line in sled hockey? The position of the player's feet, the position of the player's sled blade, having hand contact with the blue line. And question number 2, true or false, in sled hockey, backward skating skills are critical to keep all players in front of you. And that's pertaining to officials. Backward skating as an official are critical to keep all players in front of you, true or false. So I'll give you about 30 seconds or so to answer those questions. And it looks like you won't even need that long, with 80% of our precincts reporting. Question number 1, what determines whether an attacking player is offside at the blue line in sled hockey? My second episode in a row where I got 100% answers and 100% correct answers on a poll question. The position of the sled blade underneath the player. That's how you determine whether the player is offside or not. And then true or false, in sled hockey, backward skating skills are critical to keep all players in front of you as an official. 69% of you said true and 31% of you said false. And our panelist official, Evonne Fix, will certainly share the correct answer with that when she's covering working disabled hockey as an official. So with that, we'll take and pass it on over to Evonne. Go ahead.
Hey, I would like to start off by just talking a little bit about sled hockey. And for those who may not be familiar with what sled hockey is, it's for people who don't have any legs or have limited use of their legs. And when they skate, they actually sit in a bucket with blades underneath their bucket. So from the poll, it looks like most of you are familiar with what that would look like. And then in order to skate, they use shortened sticks that have metal pokey things in them, so that those picks, that's what they use to skate, is the picks at the end of the sticks. And that obviously makes butt ending rule very important, very dangerous if somebody gets butt ended. So here we have a picture of a sled with the bucket, and you can see the blades underneath. And then even if somebody is a double amputee, they still have the part of the sled that sits out in front of them for balance. And then I think there's also a picture of a stick to show as well. So here you can see that the metal picks at the end of the sticks, they're very sharp, and so if there is a butt ending, you may want to make sure you catch that one for sure. When I first started officiating sled hockey, a couple of the things that really struck me as a little different is their ability to stick handle underneath the sleds. It's something you're not used to visually seeing as an able-bodied stand-up hockey game. And then calling offsides is also becomes a little bit more challenging. And just here we have a picture of a player in their sled and showing how they use their sticks to propel themselves and skate. So yeah, when calling offsides, there's a lot of, you can see by this that everything is very low and you got 2 sticks and all the sleds. So sometimes calling offsides becomes a little bit difficult to see where the puck is, and but you do the best job you can by being in the best position you can be in. Another rule for us as officials is no jumping, because if we were to jump, that puts our skate blades right at the players' necks. So that's very important to keep in mind. Something else that is different is most rinks are not set up for sled hockey as far as having the benches inside where they can skate in with their sled and change lines like you would see at the Paralympics. So most of the time the players are actually sitting in the neutral zone between the two blue lines. And so as an official, you know, that's right in our skating lane. So you have to be aware of where you are in the rink. And it also means you need to have a lot of good teamwork with your partner, because if you're on the bench side, you may get caught up and play more. And if play's on your side, that bench side, your partner is going to be freer to skate up and down the ice. And so you end up doing more of a yo-yo type system when working sled hockey. Something else that is important is, because everything happens so low to the ice, you're in a different position than you are in able-bodied hockey. You want to be closer to play. And so skating around the net to get close to play and having a narrower vision is also different than able-bodied hockey. But you want to be extremely careful skating behind the net, because the goalies are obviously sitting down, and so the strategy to score goals is a lot of times to shoot high. And well, if they miss the net and you happen to have bad timing of going behind the net, it's not going to end well for you as an official. So you have to make sure you know what is going on, read the play, and figure out when it's best to skate behind the net. And then at the youth hockey level, a lot of times you'll have what is called a pusher. And in that case, the sled has a handle that comes up where an able-bodied person pushes the sled. And there are a number of pusher rules to consider when you have a pusher out there. Just a couple of them are: the pusher needs to skate at the same pace as what the play is going. And in able-bodied, when play starts up, you can get that quick burst of speed. But in sled hockey, it's more of a flow game. And so when a pusher skates, they need to skate the same way that the game is being played. They can't catch anybody from behind. And in the defensive zone, they're not allowed to be in an area in front of the net. And there's a number of other rules for pushers as well, but those are just a few of them. One penalty that is different in sled hockey than able body is teeing. And that is when you use the front of your sled to hit somebody basically at a 90-degree angle. So you can't use the front of your sled to take somebody out. And I think we have a couple of clips, one of just some regular play. In adult hockey, there is checking allowed. So it's not men, women, it's adult hockey versus youth hockey. And so it becomes a very physical game at the adult level. And then this is a video on teeing.
Teeing is a rule that is unique to the sport of sled or sledge hockey. A player who charges an opponent or who charges the opposing goalkeeper in his crease using any part of the front radius of his sled shall be assessed a teeing penalty. At the discretion of the referee, a minor penalty, major penalty plus automatic game misconduct penalty, or match penalty may be issued. Teeing is defined as a player making contact with an opponent with any part of the front radius of his sled straight into an opponent. Factors to be considered when calling teeing are: 1. Angle of impact. 2. Degree of impact. 3. Player's intent. Players are allowed to take out the front of an opponent's sled as long as A, the opponent is carrying the puck, B, player does not use front radius of his sled to do so.
And though that clip came from actually the USA Hockey module. So if you go into USA Hockey modules and look for the officiating, disabled hockey, or if I recall, it might be sled hockey, but there's a wonderful 18-minute video that goes through the rules a little more in depth than what we have here. Brad or BJ, was there another video too, or
that was the only one.
good? Okay. Sure. And then a couple other disciplines I've worked is the deaf hockey or deaf and hearing impaired. And if the rink is set up for that specific division, then there would be lights around the dasher boards. And when you blow the whistle, then the timekeeper would hit the button and the lights would go off, signaling, a stoppage of play. But most deaf and hearing impaired, some of the players can hear a little bit. So everybody really does a good job of reacting to play. And, if a goalie has the puck, they know that there's going to be a whistle, so they stop. And, they're very aware of what's going on. So there's not much difficulty in that area. The other one I've worked a little bit is the blind. And a few things different with that one is they use a 3-foot net, and the puck is metal and it has ball bearings in it, and it's much larger. So it's 4 inches by 2 inches. And I think we might have a video of what that puck looks like and sounds like. Thanks. And what's interesting about the blind hockey is that they put, so it's blind and visually impaired, and they put the blindest person in net, and then the next people are the defensemen, and the people that have the most sight are the forwards. One of the rules that is different with blind hockey is that once they enter the offensive zone, the attacking team has to make a pass within the offensive zone before shooting the puck on net. If that doesn't happen and they shoot the puck on net before a pass has been completed, then the whistle is blown and the face-off is taken into the neutral zone. To signal that a pass has been completed, you use an electronic whistle that sounds different than a whistle that you blow with your mouth. And so once that's happened, you use that electronic whistle, and then players know that a shot can be taken on net. And something else, obviously the goalie can't see the puck. So once there's a shot on net and, you don't expect the goalie to cover it like you would in an able-bodied game. It's just, if it's in that area and the goalie basically has it, then the whistle is blown to kill play and take a face-off in the neutral zone. Something to be both the sled and the blind hockey is you need to be super aware of where players are, because the sled players don't skate backwards, they circle a lot. And so, if you're standing at the blue line and the defenseman, they're not just going to be sitting there because it's difficult for them to get going from a dead stop. So they're going to be circling. So you have to be aware of where they're circling, and they might circle pretty much in your position at the blue line, and you need to move out of their way and give them their space. And for the blind players, literally they may not see you, and they might be using the boards as a guide to get to where they hear the puck. And if you happen to be between the puck and where they are at and they don't see you, well, down you go. So just awareness of where everybody is super important. I think we have a video of blind hockey, and I'm not sure, this one you can hear a coach talking through it, but as soon as the puck is dropped, you'll hear a different whistle signifying that a pass was complete. And then once the puck moves down the ice and another pass is completed, you can hear that whistle again.
That's how you do it. Here it comes, Kevin. Here it comes. That's it. Bring it in. Fast, fast, fast. Let's go. Good job, Kevin.
So as you can hear from that, the blind hockey is obviously a fairly noisy game, and but that's how the players find the puck and can figure out what to do with it. And then Beth has gone over the other disciplines. So I don't know, do you have anything to add, BJ or Brad or Beth?
No, by all means, Beth or Brad, if either of you want to throw in anything else as far as how the disciplines, I'm kind of curious, and I've never heard, I'm not terribly familiar with blind hockey. What's the spirit and intent of the must pass the puck rule in the attacking zone? Why does that rule exist?
Really, that's...
Oh, go ahead, Beth.
Oh, no, go ahead, Beth. I'll let you take it.
No, you got it. You got it.
So the spirit of that is, first of all, to let the goalies aware that a puck can be shot on them. Otherwise, they would have no idea that a puck is potentially coming in. So if a player just skates it in and takes a shot, goalie would never know that because they are completely blindfolded. So it's giving the goalies the same, what I would say, competitive advantage of at least being aware that a shot could be coming.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Nothing I love better than a rule that just has complete common sense behind it.
Yes.
Yeah, the other thing I just learned from Evonne was also the pusher rule, which I wasn't terribly familiar with pushers and all that. I knew that there were people that stood behind sled players and then pushed them along, sort of like on almost like a sled or a cart almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes sense that basically why wouldn't you go out and find the fastest skater that you can find to basically push you around so you can get the puck to the puck quicker than everybody else. But the fact that they're obligated, those pushers are obligated to skate basically at the pace of play. That makes a heck of a lot of sense. So anything else to share with regards to how the game's played and within any of the disciplines?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would want to add, and Brad, maybe you can speak to specifics a little bit more with special hockey. There is a rolling subbing system, I guess is the way to put it. So every couple minutes, buzzer goes off and everyone subs, and that's just to increase everyone's opportunity on the ice and participation. I think that's the biggest difference with special hockey. But Brad, if there's anything that I'm missing, please add.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Beth. Yes, with special hockey, I tell the officials, really, there's not a whole heck of a lot of rules in terms of the rule book because it is such a free-flowing game. Beth, as you said, every 2 minutes, the buzzer sounds, new players will come out. And quite honestly, in special hockey, depending upon the divisions, the lower levels, we may see 10 players come out and only 4 for the other team. And we're totally fine with that. You know, it's all about being inclusive, especially with the special hockey and the special needs. And quite honestly, you're not going to have, I don't think, any more fun working a special hockey game because the athletes are just so friendly, so nice. They're definitely competitive, don't get me wrong, but you know, you'll see them helping each other up when they fall down, etc. And the one big thing, probably the biggest thing with special hockey is the safety of the athletes. Because we're dealing with a number of different cognitive issues that the players have, you know, collisions at times, we want to be very, very cautious of that because that may trigger one of our special needs skaters to, you know, get very frustrated. So awareness within that game, within the special hockey games, is very important for that main particular reason. Yeah. So.
And I'll elaborate on something you just said, Brad, just a little bit more, especially with special hockey. We see this throughout most of our disciplines, but especially with special, there are certain nuances with the rules that differ between the higher level and the lower level. And because while the primary goal of special hockey is to have fun and have an opportunity to compete, the higher level, higher functioning, more skilled players do get very competitive. So the rules differ a little bit than the lower function, newer players that are still learning how to skate and also adapting to the sensory needs of having a helmet on and having all the pads on. You know, that in itself is a special undertaking for some of those players. So there are little nuances within that as well.
Correct. And one of the big things with the special hockey is there is no offsides. There is no icing unless you're at what we have, the A level division, which is our higher functioning athletes. So it is almost like pond hockey, drop the puck and go and play and shoot on net. And, it's just a lot of fun to watch. And one of the other nuances, as Beth mentioned, not only the sensory issues with the helmet and the pads, but even with the buzzers as well, too. Mm-hmm. That's something that we need to be aware of as officials to be able to potentially calm those players down. There's coaches out on the ice, but we want to be part of that process as well, too.
No, it certainly makes sense. One other thing that I hadn't heard mentioned, and I've had limited exposure to the disabled game and the sled game, but some of the things that I've picked up were certainly don't jump. I know that's rule one when being official. That's the first rule that you do not break, is jumping on the ice. Another one is kind of like what our poll question was, skating backwards. You typically don't skate backwards that very much, just only because you're not always aware of who might be behind it, and even sight lines being, you're normally looking behind you, you're looking at the kind of the normal height, where the sled players obviously are several feet or much shorter and closer to the ice, and you're just not aware of where they may or may not be. But the other thing I picked up also was just that sign of respect to the sled players, that either whether before the game or after the game, when you do the handshake thing, the able-bodied officials, they take a knee. And take a knee down to the ice out of respect to the athletes, and that's how the handshakes or the glove bumps are executed at that level. So I just wanted to put that out there as well, just because I hadn't heard it mentioned. But no, that's all great information, and thank you for sharing it with all of us. From that, we will move into part 3 in the third presentation with Mr. Roethlisberger. But before we do that, we'll move on to our third poll. Watch the poll. Question number 1 in poll 3: true or false? I know who to contact to get involved with local or national disabled hockey events. So who your point of contact would be from a local level or a national level if you want to get involved with one of the disciplines, disabled hockey. Question 2, also true or false: I know where to find educational resources and playing rule guidelines for sled hockey. So we'll give you another 5 to 10 seconds here. Most of you got your answers in. Another second or two. Okay, pencils down, and we'll share those results. I know who to contact, who to get involved with local or national disabled hockey events. About half and half. About half of you said you know exactly who to reach out to and who to contact, and half of you don't. And Brad will definitely clear up that question for anyone who is looking for who to reach out to and how to get involved. And then true or false: I know where to find educational resources and playing rule guidelines for sled hockey. And most of you said, 85% of you said true. A couple of you said false. And I'm sure Brad will certainly share where all of our educational resources are located. So if you do get, if you're fortunate enough to get selected to work a disabled event, where you can find those educational resources to prepare for the event. So with that, take it away, Brad.
Thanks, BJ. And both BJ and Beth, thank you from a standpoint of USA Hockey, putting this together tonight. Super excited, and also to the participants that are taking their time this evening to view this and participate. Thank you for coming out. I've been involved with sled hockey and now the disabled section for about 12 years now. I started a sled program within Wisconsin. And then BJ and Matt Leaf reached out to me to get involved on the officiating program, knowing that I was involved with helping start a sled program. And it's kind of morphed into, a much larger role and a very satisfying role that I play with USA Hockey. For those of you, I'm glad to see that 85% of the participants know where to go to find the resources. But for the small percentage, the few that don't, what you can do is go to the USA Hockey website. We actually have the rule book in a couple of different areas. So first of all, in the officiating section, we have the rule book, but then also if you go to the coaches players section and click on disabled hockey, you will also find the rule book in that area as well. Now, the only official rule book that we have posted online is the sled rule book. We're currently working with the blind rule book and getting that online, as well as some of the special nuances with special hockey. So hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have those resources on. For the other three disciplines, the warrior hockey, the standing amputee, and the deaf hard of hearing, as Beth had mentioned before, those games are really called under the same USA Hockey rule book. There's really no differences in the game, so we don't need to have a specific rule book. The other resource that I'd like to point out too, and Evonne had mentioned this, is we do have the sled hockey video. That's part of the training curriculum that everybody can take a chance and look at that to learn about some of the specific rules, unique rules that Evonne had mentioned before. In regards to getting involved with the local or the national disabled hockey events, I will tell anybody, feel free to reach out to myself first of all. If you know of local teams, whether it's sled, special, etc., feel free to reach out to them as well and offer your services for any local events. With our national events, that's something that if you can feel free to get in contact with me. Beth had mentioned before that we have 4 dedicated events, one for the special hockey, the warrior hockey, which the warrior hockey has had a great collaboration with the folks out in Las Vegas and one of the casinos and shows out there, where they have basically, and Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, but they have put up about a 5-year sponsorship for our warrior hockey.
We had a 3-year contract that ended this year, and so it will. It's still a little unknown what the Warrior Classic will look like going forward.
Okay. And then, as was mentioned, the Blind Hockey Classic, the Sled Hockey Classic, those are 4 of the 4 fall events, and then our Disabled Festival in the spring of the year. In addition to that, USA Hockey and the disabled section has started running a number of different camps. So there will be 3 or 4 summer sled camps that individuals can participate in. And during those camps, at least one of them, we do have an officiating program, just like the various summer programs we have for summer development. This is specifically for sled to come in, work games, get further education and further opportunities to work the games in somewhat of a controlled setting. And generally that takes place 3 to 4 days out in Buffalo. This past year, unfortunately, we did have to cancel the camp due to COVID, but fingers crossed, we'll get that started again next summer. The blind program has been having a camp in Utica for the past 2 to 3 years. Unfortunately, this year that was canceled, much like all camps, unfortunately, were canceled this year. But those provide, once again, a training opportunity for officials to learn and work more of the blind camps. Like I said, special programs during the summer, they'll have various camps as well that we can all go out and learn a little bit more about the sport. So, like I said, feel free to reach out to myself. My contact information is right on the USA Hockey website. And just feel free to give me an email or send me an email. This year, unfortunately, we have all the fall events have been canceled this year. And we are keeping our fingers crossed big time that we'll still be able to make it to Pittsburgh this spring for the National Disabled Festival. The way the festival works is because our numbers are so large, we actually spread this out over 2 weekends. The first weekend is everything except for sled hockey. So
we switched it.
Oh, okay.
We're switching the dates. An official countrywide announcement is coming out soon, but the first weekend will actually be sled, and that will be the weekend of April. I'm pulling it up so I don't get it wrong. 8th through the 11th. And then the following weekend will be the other 5 disciplines.
I thank you for that. Duly noted. So those are opportunities where not only do we like to lean on the local officiating associations, but we also will invite officials in to partake in that, like a national tournament event. It is obviously a lot of work, and that's one of the things that I share with individuals that are interested in working disabled hockey. Many times individuals kind of get the wrong idea about the games and think that, you know, they're slower pace or whatever. And yes, some of these are at the beginner level, but boy, when you get to that national tournament, you need to be on your A game as an official, just as you would with stand-up hockey, because it is fast paced, it is intense. And quite honestly, like I tell the officials, this is our Player Stanley Cup. It truly is. And the stands will have a lot of people there, especially for the blind hockey. I think that's some of the largest attended events that I've seen, primarily because people are just interested. How does the sport of blind hockey work? So you'll find yourself in a rink that has got a lot of fans and a lot of excitement to the game.
Great, thanks, Brad. I mean, I think the first time I ever saw a sled hockey game was, I think it was one of our development camps out in Rochester. And it, particularly with the development, it was a development camp for players, the players that were working their way up the ladder, similar to our able-bodied players working their way on a national level up the ladder as a players. They are competitive. That's the first thing you notice is they're highly, highly skilled. They're very good at what they do, and they are very, very competitive. And even watching just a little bit of that footage from the IPC Paralympics, you can see just how much engagement, how much physical contact there is between the players as they compete for the puck and battle for the puck. It's amazing to watch, without a doubt. With regard to the camps and even working these other events, Brad, is there any like strict demographics, or because typically you see like most of our able-bodied nationals, you see a lot of those opportunities go to younger officials, those officials that a lot of supervisors and RICs kind of want to promote and see them work their way up the ladder. With the disabled events, do you kind of follow those same demographics, or is it kind of wide open to anyone who's really just genuinely interested and wants to participate?
Yeah, it really is. You know, we want the officials that truly have a passion for the game and a passion for the disabled athletes. So the typical demographics, we do kind of throw out the window. Obviously, it is a national event, so we want to have officials, men and women, that are capable of going out onto the ice and have the skating ability. That's probably the biggest thing, is having a good, strong skating background. But it doesn't make a difference if you're an 18-year-old or a 38-year-old or a 48-year-old. The one thing that I like to ask is, as the sport continues to grow, if you have that opportunity to attend one of these national events, please take it upon yourself and bring this back to your local area to try and recruit more officials, whether it's for sled, whether it's for blind, whether it's for special hockey. We need to get more officials involved. As Beth had mentioned before, the number of players just continues to grow, and it's going to continue to grow. So from the officiating core, we also need to make sure that our officials have the training, have the experience. So it's on everybody to be able to do that. And that's one of the big asks that we do have for those that attend an event.
That's a great point, Brad. It's the days, and we've all kind of, certainly us as officials, we've all kind of been there going into a tournament where you kind of look at the guy across the rooms and you're about to take the ice like a couple minutes before the game, and you ask each other, particularly like in a tournament setting or something like that, what are the rules? What are the rules we follow? And I almost feel like that's kind of the way these disabled events can be treated sometimes. And as you said, Brad, like those days are behind us. The expectations of our players and our teams out there within our membership, the expectations are the officials are going to come out, they're going to come out prepared, they're going to come out and understand what the rules are and what the expectations are when they get out there on the ice, even just the little nuances of the game and how the game's ultimately to be played. You gotta be professional, and you have to take it seriously when you get out there.
Absolutely. One of the stories I like to share with officials is this is when I was coaching the team in Wisconsin. We're at a festival, and our team was just getting blown out off the ice. And you could see from the official standpoint, they really weren't working hard. And I knew the officials, so I knew how hard they could actually work. So I don't know, like after the 10th goal was scored on us, I simply asked the officials to come over, and I pulled them aside away from the players. I said, it's 8 a.m. in the morning. I understand this is a blowout hockey game. The only thing that I ask you to remember is that this particular game is our championship game for our kids. So, if you can pick up the hustle a little bit and at least show that you really, truly want to be out there. And after that, they got it, they picked it up, and I said, hey, I understand we've all been in that situation of blowout games, whether it's sled or stand-up hockey or disabled hockey, but we owe it to those participants to put in our full effort out on the ice.
No, you're absolutely right. As officials, we've been there. Those basically blowout games, whether able-bodied or disabled. And it's amazing what just a few words of encouragement to players. And yeah, you know what? It's a tough game to get through, but just a few words of encouragement to a player or a goalkeeper, or just let in the next goal, and just little things like that can really at least keep their spirits going and at least bring some enjoyment to the game. And remember, it's fun. This is supposed to be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you may have an athlete out there, no matter what discipline it is, that's the first time that they ever were able to take a shot on net. It might be their first goal ever. You name it. It might be their first penalty ever, and they're super excited about it as well, too. So that's what makes all the disciplines so much fun.
No doubt. One question submitted from one of our participants. This person said they were working a sled event, and actually the coaches and I think some volunteers were actually allowed out on the ice with the players. And he asked, is that normal, or is it kind of a per event basis type of thing? How would you respond to that question?
Yeah, so with that, it really depends upon the level overall. The youth level, we are a little bit more flexible in allowing the coaches out on the ice. We do try and limit it. Coaches, if they are out on the ice, have to wear skates. have to wear a helmet, etc. And the biggest thing that we stress is just make sure that those coaches are not giving the players a competitive advantage. And we're not necessarily talking about pushers. Sometimes the coaches will be out there getting the players in a proper position at a face-off, etc. But as we start to move up through the advanced levels, even the advanced youth and adult, then no, we do not want to have the coaches out on the ice. It does create a safety issue overall, but we can be in our generally a little bit more flexible at the young beginner youth levels. Beth, I don't know if there's anything that you would want to add from that.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it right on. And we don't typically see that at the festival, which is our only national event at the youth level. We don't see that, and I don't know that we have a hard and fast rule against it, but we typically don't allow it at the festival. But in the more developing programs at the younger ages, at the local level, in their leagues and games, I know it's kind of up to the ref and the other coach's discretion.
Correct.
So it's kind of like if ask the coaches, they'll kind of give you the guidance and kind of give you the idea of how this particular event is going to be played. They'll, period length and all that kind of stuff. And then whether volunteers are allowed on there on the ice, the coaches will give the guidelines. Almost like, sounds like kind of the ADM cross ice game. Almost like they'll, you don't necessarily know what you're walking out to, but just ask the coaches and they'll let you know how it's supposed to be played.
Absolutely. And with that being said, at any point in time, we as officials, if we see that those coaches or volunteers are creating a situation or an atmosphere that is unsafe, by all means, please ask them to or remove them off of the ice, and just politely explain, we're seeing some unfair advantages here, and let's just let the players go and play.
Yeah.
And stay on the bench area.
And as Jeff mentioned in his question, they mostly stayed in the neutral zone, like near the player's bench. And at the level that the players need this help, they're absolutely not playing on Sled accessible sheets. So their benches are on the ice. And sometimes the coaches or volunteers are there to help keep the puck out from getting underneath of their sleds. Because that can be an issue, and for the more beginner, it can be dangerous if they don't have as much control over stopping their sled. So I know that happens on occasion as well. And yeah, we don't want our coaches or volunteers skating all over the ice, but staying in that neutral zone and at those beginner levels is not normal, but not hard against the rules.
Yeah, and you'll see those coaches also are out there to help pick some of the players up at times. The players tip over;
Mm-hmm.
they don't have that body strength yet to right themselves up. Now, we as officials, we can definitely do that, and I encourage that. Go ahead and help the players get up. But sometimes, and I know when I was a coach, there are certain players where I did not want the officials to help because I wanted them to really work on getting themselves upright. And so that's one of the things too, you want to communicate with the coaches, especially in youth, of how much do you want me to help your players if they fall down, pick them up. So that's where you'll also see some times where the coaches are out there.
Great, thanks guys. Just to a little bit of housekeeping. Beth, you mentioned something through the chat actually with regard to blind, special, and warrior rules. You said they were posted online?
Yeah, so we do have rules for those disciplines online on each individual discipline webpage. They are on those pages, and those are kind of working rules. As Brad mentioned, they're newer, but we are working on making sure that those are just as official and tied up as sled hockey is. So those are now available.
Okay. Thanks, Beth. And then for Brad or Beth as well, or any of you, if you're interested in finding out more about these events, particularly I want to go work at a disabled event, where would I find those types of things posted online? Where were the resources as far as the calendar and schedule of events? Where would those be available?
Beth,
Yeah, we have. Yeah. We have an events tab on our Disabled Hockey webpage that highlights all of the events. And, in full honesty, those are all pretty COVID cancellation looking right now. But as information is available, that is where that's all posted. So each event has its own webpage that shares the location, date, and then our Disabled Hockey section also has information. So if you're looking to get involved in a specific area, our Disabled Hockey section is comprised of district representatives. So there's a representative for each district within USA Hockey, as well as discipline reps. So you can contact either the discipline that you're looking to get involved in and or the district that you live in. And those people can help connect you to local programs, leagues, any opportunities for you to get involved.
Great, thanks, Beth. On that, we have come up to the top of the hour, so we're going to start wrapping things up here. I'm going to share our upcoming schedule for future Zoomcast episodes. Coming up, as you can see, we're here in September 22nd. We're covering Disabled Hockey. Coming up next week, we have aggressive infractions. Scott Zelkin is going to be in the captain's chair for that one, and he is going to be joined by Ian Walsh. Coming up on 20 years in the National Hockey League as a referee, good friend of mine and good friend of USA Hockey. Regularly gives back as a volunteer instructor to USA Hockey. Ian Walsh, great guy. He's going to speak as a panelist on that episode, as well as Mackenzie Welter, who comes from the New York area. She has worked her way up through the ranks of girls hockey and now currently works both the IIHF level as well as the NCAA level. She's going to contribute as well as a referee within those levels. After that is mental preparation. We certainly talk all the time about physical preparation, getting into the gym and working cardio-wise and building up our strength and fitness and all that to prepare for the season and our games and all that. But mental preparation and getting ourselves into the right state of mind for not only the game itself, but even the season. The season, as any of us will say, it's long. It can be really, really long, and getting through those peaks and valleys takes mental preparation and mental focus. So it should be a really, really interesting episode to tune in on. And then after that, icing and offsides. We're going to cover basically the two main calls of linesmen. While they're seemingly black and white and pretty simple rules, there's a lot of interpretations and nuances of those two rules that if we don't get it right, we can really, really screw up a call and screw up a hockey game. As kind of the saying sometimes goes that the Stanley Cup has been both won and lost on missed offsides calls, and that is in fact true. So that's why it's so critical. They may not be the most important calls on the ice. It's important that we get them right, and good rule knowledge certainly sets us up for success with that. So also, as you noticed on that upcoming schedule, we have our social media channels on Twitter and Instagram. Feel free to go out there and find those social media channels on Twitter and follow us on social media. For those who are participating here on Zoom, you will have a survey follow-up launched to you as soon as we wrap up here. Please go on and take a few minutes to complete that survey. It's very, very short, but most importantly, one of the questions within that survey is suggesting future topics. And that's your opportunity as a participant to suggest any topic that happens to be on your mind, something you'd love to see us cover with one of these Zoomcast episodes. We're always looking for that. At the same time, even the feedback, what you liked, what you didn't like. We're always, we're open to constructive criticism and the ways we can make this program better for you as the participant. Thank you to all the participants for joining us. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We're really, really happy you joined us for this one episode. If you're one of our dedicated veterans that have joined us week in and week out, thank you for your support and dedication to the Zoomcast program. And we look forward to you for many episodes to come. Thank you to the panelists, Evonne, Beth, Brad. Thank you for taking time out of your personal schedules and giving back and your support of the USA Hockey Zoomcast program. And on that note, I'm BJ Ringrose, and on behalf of USA Hockey and the officiating program, wish you well, and thank you for your dedication to USA Hockey. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.